good singer, and she began to perform in nightclubs.
Well, hello there, good old friend of mine.
I remember Warren sitting there looking extremely proud, and he'd sent her a lot of flowers and everything. He was very good about backing her on that.
The Buffetts celebrated their silver wedding anniversary in 1977, but that same year, Warren's world fell apart.
Susie decides that she wants a life of her own as well as a life as Mrs. Warren Buffett.
I think she just got to a point in her life where she needed some space, you know, a room of her own or whatever.
Susan decided to move to San Francisco.
That's pretty tough for him, particularly in the beginning. He would open a vein for Susie. After a couple of years, Astrid Manx moves in, who was a friend of Susie's, and more or less at Susie's suggestion, and that becomes, you know, that's the way he deals with it. But those are tough years for him.
Astrid became like a second wife to him, but he and Susie stayed married.
And amazingly enough, they were two people that could pull that off, you know. Most people couldn't, but they could and did.
There's no question that he was crazy about her.
If you knew Susie like I know Susie, oh, my gal.
And she was crazy about him. As life went on, it looked like a more unusual husband and wife relationship.
And soon there would be yet another important woman in Warren Buffett's life.
I'm Warren Buffett, chairman of Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated, which has a...
In the early 1980s, Warren Buffett was steadily adding to the Berkshire Hathaway portfolio, and for a while he had had his eye on the Nebraska Furniture Mart. It was owned by 90-year-old Rose Blumpkin, better known in Omaha as Mrs. B.
Can they help you? Maybe what you're looking for, honey. Come on, I'll show you what it is. Got lots of buttons.
She was an immigrant from Russia, came to this country, had the courage to start her own business.
I think I got it right here.
By the 1980s, she's got her whole family, and she's got the single biggest furniture store in the United States.
Mrs. B ruled the store, barking orders and invective from her motorized golf cart.
But all day is waiting. We don't do nothing. That's what they do is wait. We don't just sit.
Never taking a day off, she worked 14 hours, 7 days a week, and was all business.
You got Perrick? I need new. Cost you $17.50.
She had the price tags of the furniture in her house, in case anybody who came by was interested. Now that's a salesperson.
I sell anything, I don't care.
This woman is like the, you know, the sort of distilled epitome of the capitalist drive in one little tiny nutshell.
Thanks to Mrs. B's formula, which was sell cheap and tell the truth, the store had annual sales in the neighborhood of $150 million. And in 1983, Warren Buffett decided to buy her store.
Buffett walked in and he said, you know, it's my birthday, I'd like to buy your business. He says, well, you know, I'm ready to sell to you. How much? $60 million. She does not read or write English. The contract is one page. She makes a mark, gives her the check, the business is done.
Done on a handshake. No hostile takeover and no junk bond financing or selling off parts for greater profits. In a decade of corporate raids when greed was good and Madonna's Material Girl would become the symbol of the age, Warren Buffett's Material Girl was Mrs. B, and she continued to run the store and yell at her employees.
Find out. You don't have to say it. Find the spot.
The truth is she didn't give up the company. I mean, we are partners, and in most ways, she's the senior partner. She knows, she's forgotten more about the business than I'll ever know, so she's the boss.
So now the load at Berkshire must be borne by Mrs. B.
Warren Buffett loved Mrs. B and honored her at an Omaha Press Club event in 1987.
Mrs. B will save me. She'll just throw another sail.
In 15 months, he had made about as much money with Mrs. B as he had in 19 years with the ailing Berkshire Hathaway textile factory. It barely scraped by, but Buffett had kept it going until it threatened to become a financial drain on the holding company.
He was very reluctant to send the employees packing, and he was sensitive to being called a liquidator, or some Wall Street type who comes in, closes down the plant just to make a buck.
But to Buffett, the shareholders always came first, and in 1985, he reluctantly closed it down, leaving 400 jobless employees with bitter feelings. That same year, Buffett came to the aid of his good friend Tom Murphy of the media company Capital Cities. Murphy was about to buy ABC.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening.
So I called Warren immediately. I really needed a 400-pound gorilla who was a major stockholder who could prevent anyone from coming over and taking over the company.
At that time, there were a lot of raids going on, so if you had Buffett in there, nobody was going to come and raid the company.
Without a moment's hesitation, Warren Buffett volunteered to play the part of gorilla.
And he said to Murphy, "How much do you need?" And Murphy said, "I need $517 million." And Buffett said, "That's fine." It was literally a split-second decision.
It turned out we lost $90 million the first year. So that was not a very good opportunity.
But that didn't faze Buffett.
No. No, nothing like that would worry him.
All right, this is shot one, please. Here we go.
And Buffett was in it for the long haul. ABC stabilized, but the stock market did not. On Black Monday, October 19, 1987, the Dow Jones fell by 22%, and Berkshire Hathaway shares lost 25% of their value. Buffett's personal loss was $342 million, but he soon turned disaster to advantage.
This is one of these times when you can walk down Wall Street and buy business cheap. And it's shortly after that he makes his biggest, maybe his single best investment ever. He loads up on a company he's followed since he was a kid, and that's Coca-Cola.
The president of Coca-Cola, who used to be his neighbor in Omaha, didn't know who was buying about 50,000 shares a day.
There was a lot of raiders moving into companies, and so, you know, it made you a little nervous.
Fish, 115, right there.
Well, one night I was thinking, you know, it's just possible that that could be Warren. I said, "Warren, maybe you're not buying a share or two of Coca-Cola stock, are you?" And he said, "Well, I'm getting ready to call you."
The biggest investment at that time, roughly $1 billion in Coke, which today is worth $8 or $9 billion, and it got up to $15 billion.
Meanwhile, back at the Nebraska Furniture Mart, things were getting complicated. After a bitter dispute with her 3 grandsons over pricing, a furious Mrs. B, now 95 years old, quit the Furniture Mart.
I like they should go down to hell. I want to show him who I was and who they are.
But business was business, and Buffett was no knight in shining armor stepping in to save her.
The Nebraska Furniture Mart was being run by 3 Blumpkins, for whom he had a lot of respect, and he felt that it was their decision what to do here.
Out of spite, Mrs. B opened a carpet store right across the street.
I feel very depressed. Every time I look at it, it bothers me when I go by the building.
But the story had a happy ending. Again, Warren Buffett bought out Mrs. B, this time for $5 million. And she ran the store until the year before she died at 104. Berkshire Hathaway kept growing and taking in huge sums of money.
You see our biggest stockholder on the left, Warren Buffett.
In 1995, the Disney Corporation bought ABC for $19 billion, adding considerably to Buffett's fortune.
The right thing has been done for the shareholders of both companies.
Buffett's shareholders rarely had anything to complain about.
We've got a bunch of businesses around the country, and it's my job to take the money they earn and do the most intelligent thing that I can for our shareholders.
He told me once, he says, "I have to put $100 million to work every week. I've got to find a way to put $100 million every week. That's you have 52 weeks in a year. It's $5 billion a year you have to find to put new companies. Not so easy."
Testing, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million.
How to invest all the money Buffett was taking in for Berkshire Hathaway was a problem thousands of people wish they had. But for Buffett, who was getting older, there were other big decisions to make. Warren Buffett, the world's greatest investor, is a guru to hopeful shareholders. Every year, they flock to Berkshire Hathaway's annual meeting in Omaha.
They come clutching the Berkshire annual report as though it were the Bible. It is their Bible, to hear the great man speak.
Based on what I've seen,
With Berkshire Hathaway Vice Chairman Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett presides.
They start at about 8 in the morning, and they answer every single question.
I think I got most of that about...
Most CEOs of public companies, they regard the public investors as sort of a nuisance, somebody to placate and then to get rid of. Warren is talking to his investors, again, like they're his partners.
With very few exceptions, there is good news for the stockholders every year.
If there has been a major mistake made by Warren Buffett as the head of Berkshire Hathaway, I don't know what it is.
Well, his record has been so good in general, in its entirety, that you don't see the mistakes that he made.
Guys, that's the best offering.
Most of those, I would say, are acts of omission as opposed to acts of commission.
One omission is tech stocks.
Absolutely hates tech stocks. If you look back at the tech bubble of the late 1990s, early 2000s, he basically stayed out of that completely. A lot of people actually criticized him and said he missed a tremendous amount of opportunities to find value in certain companies.
It's just not his thing. Buffett doesn't even use a computer at the office.
It's of no utility. I mean, all I'm trying to do is buy a piece of a business at an attractive price, and the computer doesn't tell me how to do that.
Not even Bill Gates has managed to win him over completely.
He spent 9 hours explaining Microsoft to me. Couldn't have been a better teacher. Couldn't have had a dumber student. But I still understood a fair amount of what he was saying, because he is a good teacher, and I bought 100 shares when I got all through. That just shows you how many dumb things you could do in this world.
When the dot-com bubble burst, Warren Buffett didn't lose his shirt, and Berkshire Hathaway continues to make money for Warren Buffett, his shareholders, and Uncle Sam. Warren Buffett has paid his share of taxes since he was 13. In 2004, the Berkshire Hathaway federal tax return amounted to more than $3 billion and stacked up to over 10,000 pages.
Generally speaking, a progressive tax system makes great sense in a prosperous country. I benefit plenty from the society. I see nothing wrong with those who have been blessed by this society to give a larger portion of their income to the society than somebody that's working very, very hard just to make ends meet.
Buffett has earned his billions as a Berkshire Hathaway shareholder. As its CEO, his income is comparatively modest.
He pays himself $100,000 a year. I mean, $100,000 for a CEO salary these days is really nothing. CEOs are compensated on average about $9, $10 million a year.
He lives modestly, too, and enjoys himself in ways that almost anybody could afford.
He has so much fun. He plays the ukulele for fun. He tap dances to work every day because he's got the luxury of doing that. He likes to play bridge. You can do that if you make $10,000 a year.
Best mental game there is.
My sister plays bridge with him.
And he wants to win. He loves winning. He's very competitive.
And by some fluke, Bertie won. And so Bertie wanted to take that card, that piece of paper you write the scores down on, and Warren ate it.
Warren wants to win in bridge just as in business, and he keeps making loads of money, but he makes it the old-fashioned, honest way.
There's no hint in Warren's fortune of the kind of games that financiers of this age play, inside trading,